Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
As Tim and I mentioned previously, our favorite film for the Fantasia Film Festival was the incredible horror thriller Alone. We're lucky enough not to only watch a screener, but have the honor of being able to chat with director John Hyams, stars Marc Menchaca, and Jules Willcox. So welcome to the show, everyone.
Hi.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time. So like Brian mentioned, we watched probably 10 to 12 screeners from Fantasia Film Fest, and this, I think, unanimously between me and Brian was our favorite film that we watched. It was just incredible. So before we get to that, why don't we talk about some of the projects you guys have worked on for our listeners that may be unfamiliar with your work? And we start with John.
Well, I've started in documentaries, did a couple back, one for HBO, IFC, The Smash Machine Rank. Then I went into kind of doing some action cinema. I think I'm probably the one that was most known was in 2012, Universal Soldier, Day of Reckoning. And most recently now I'm doing my own series for Netflix called Black Summer. We're currently shooting season 2.
Oh, cool.
Cool. What about you, Jules?
Well, started out as a theater rat, so I've done all the theater. And I've worked actually with John on Chicago PD and the last season of Bloodline and Teen Wolf. Favorite TV credits.
Nice. And you, Mark?
I've done I did a Chicago PD, not with John, unfortunately, or Jules, but did one of those. And then I guess Homeland and Ozark and The Outsider and Generation Kill are usually the things people know most. But when they don't, then you go down the list and maybe they might know a CSI or something.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's get into Alone. So this is a question for John. What drew you to this particular project?
It started with Matthias Olsson's script, which I just fell in love with how stripped down and minimal it was, and that it was really just kind of an exercise in pure suspense and tension. I loved the idea of exploring that type of, kind of high tension drama between two characters, and I love the portrayal of these characters, both the character of Jessica, who instead of kind of front loading the story with exposition, we start to understand what this person is about, what she's running from, and what she's forced to confront. And I also loved the design of the villain in this story, and how just when you kind of think you know exactly what he's all about, there's one particular scene that you guys would know. I think that's the one that hooked me, which is the one where he makes a phone call or answers a phone call. And we learned some things about this guy, and I just thought that would be, what the dynamics of that particular scene were the things that really hooked me. Of, can you create that much tension and kind of suspense between characters, essentially in a scene where they're not even moving in that moment? I'm used to and had done a lot of kind of action scenes and fight scenes and that kind of stuff, and I really wanted to see if I could do something that could move an audience with so minimalistically. So that was initially what drew me.
Yeah, that scene was great. I won't go into it, obviously, for people that have not got to see it yet. I would hate to spoil it, but I know exactly that scene you did, and that was a really gripping scene. So I was like, so you definitely achieved that with that one.
Well, thanks to these two brilliant performers.
All right, so speaking of brilliant performances, this one's for Mark and Jules, and I have to say, Mark, your portrayal was probably one of the scariest killer portrayals I've seen in years. It was really fantastic. I'm always interested in how actors in a horror film or a thriller film get into character, because you're portraying the extremes of human emotion. It's not something you typically experience in everyday life. So I guess I'll start with you, Jules. How did you get into the mindset of playing Jessica?
Well, we're dealing with grief at the onset of the story, and I think we all know that feeling. And so when you start there, I think I have her inner life, but then once we get out into the actual wilderness and we're playing the scenes, dealing with the physicality of it, it's really just what's happening in the moment. It feels very real. It's very life or death. We're in situations, whether it be like the river or in the, on the side of a mountain in the woods, it freezing. You can easily feel life or death in that situation. Even with everybody there, even with stunt coordinator being like, it's gonna be okay. It still feels like it's not hard to get into that place of survival in that particular environment.
What about you, Mark?
I think that, as much of a survival film as it is for Jules's character, I think it's kind of the flip side is it's like a survival film for the man as well. And, it's, for me, it boiled down to an addiction that he has to feed, yet at the same time trying to cover it up in the rest of his life. But he needs this part of him in order to survive on the other side of it, with his, well, I guess we won't go into that, but that kind of comes into that phone call that we were talking about. So yeah, I think it's a survival story on both sides. Maybe just a different kind of survival.
Yeah, I think we often talked about on set that, this is a bad situation for Jessica, but for the man, this is definitely the worst day of his life. So we have to remember that.
Yeah.
So we did a little research. Actually, we saw that this was a remake of the Swedish film. Sorry, my notes got a little off there. Swedish film named Gone. So what kind of conscious steps? And sorry, this is for John. What kind of conscious steps did you make to make sure this would have its own signature to it?
Well, it first came to me as a script before I was even aware of the original. And Matthias and Henrik Axelsson, who is the producer and the co-director and creator of the first movie, I read the script before I saw their movie. I kind of made a conscious choice then because I loved the script, so that was enough to get me interested. And in reading the script, I developed my own ideas of how I would tell that story. I decided to watch the original one time, which I did. I watched it once. I thought they did a terrific job. And in watching it that one time, I kind of realized instantly, okay, everyone covers a song differently. So I didn't really have too much worry about comparison. In fact, I think it's probably an interesting exercise for anyone to watch both of them and see the differences, because there are many differences. I mean, just the fact that these are two completely different actors and two completely different crews that are creating it. It's different locations and different visual approaches. So I wasn't too worried about comparisons, and I also didn't have to make any conscious decision to be different. We actually also deviated story-wise from some things that happened in the original. Again, that was just in developing the script itself, that Matthias and Henrik and Mike McCary, the producer, and myself, these are some ideas that I brought up, and we all kind of worked on together. So we also took it in some different directions story-wise. So I think that I haven't seen the original since I first watched it. I'd like to watch it again now and remember. But I know they did a great job.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely want to check that out. This next question is for Jules and Mark. You guys both have extensive careers in television. And I'm always kind of curious the difference to an actor between acting for television series and acting on a film set. Do you find that there's a difference there, a difference in process?
I like having a long time to process a character. And often, like, if you're guest starring on something, it's like 1 week, 2 weeks, and you're kind of coming in and going out. Having more time on, like, if you're recurring or if you're a series regular, you do get that. But with a film, you're often shooting out of sequence. And this one we weren't, actually, which was really nice. But it's really like putting all the pieces together and really mapping that journey for the character. And there's almost like a little bit of a looseness to, I think, film more so than TV, because TV's so, quick.
What about you, Mark?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's. I think you just kind of roll with the punches. I feel like, but like with this, I think it's doing something like this versus doing a TV show or another film that has a big cast. Like this was just Jules and I, so it kind of gives us room to play and to explore different aspects of a scene that maybe you wouldn't have the time to when you're dealing with a bunch of other people. But our captain John was great about letting us kind of steering us in different directions and playing around with the material. So I guess, I mean, there can be a difference, but I think this in particular is just different in itself because we did have more time, being that it was just the two of us.
Okay, cool. So this one is for everyone. So we'll take turns on this. So Tim and I are always fascinating about the filmmaking process in general. So do you have any interesting stories or funny moments from the set or anything you guys want to share without, of course, spoilers? We don't want spoilers yet, but anything fun or interesting or challenging that you faced on this film?
Well, I think there were obvious challenges on this movie. Just the fact that it's very physical, we're in the elements, the very nature of what you're seeing in the movie. These actors actually have to physically do all of those things between them and the stunt people. So when someone is going down a river in rapids, that's a person who's doing that, and someone's sprinting through the woods. I would say the most challenging thing that happened in this one, and I can hand this off to Jules, and in a weird way, was when in the filmmaking process, you always have to expect unexpected things, and you have to use them somehow to your advantage, or they'll be the things that kind of bring you down. In this case, actually, our first day, we shot a bunch of driving stuff. And then on our first day of physical action, Jules was doing a sprint from one place to another in the woods and ended up stepping on a root and basically right in that moment breaking her foot. Day one of shooting of physical action. And we had a lot of discussions during that day as Jules and Marc continued to shoot her with a broken foot before she actually was taken to the doctor. We finished out the day, and producers and I were having discussions saying, well, we spoke to the insurance company and we could get all our money back if we shut down right now. And, that was a strong consideration. And that day I drove Jules home from the set and said to her, look, we can all go home and be none worse for the wear. And this is going to be pretty tough. But if you have any desire to keep going, then we'll make it work. And I guess I'll pass the story over to you, Jules, at this point.
Yeah, it was a tough place to be because we'd already shot a lot of sort of like the inner turmoil that Jessica's going through at the top of the film. And I wanted to tell her story, I didn't want to let it go. And so it was, basically handed over to me, like, do you want to keep doing this, or it's no big deal. I mean, it's a big deal, but we can figure it out. We'll just stop right now. And I said no, like you have to keep going. And I kept like trying to walk on my broken foot. That was probably not a great idea. But, yeah, so we did the rest of the film in a boot. And camouflaged boot, underwater boot. The boot was just, you know, another character for me.
The unsung hero.
The unsung hero. Also, yeah, the stunt team as well. I will say Michelle Damas, incredible. But yeah, that it actually added to the story for me. It's very real. The pain you see is real. The struggle, like trying to move through muck, through you know, trees, through rocks with an injury, it just, the gears turn in a different way, and that survival instinct just it just becomes much more crystalline. So I think it actually ended up being great for the film, not great for my foot, but we're all good now. We're all good though.
Well, as viewers, we appreciate the sacrifice because you got an amazing film out of it. So
I could have prevented it all.
He almost did. So close.
We were walking. Jules and I were walking back. We had done a couple of these runs, and we were walking back. So where we were starting, and I said, we should get them to mark these routes, because they were just these little stumps that stuck up out of the ground, and you couldn't tell them from the dirt. And I was like, we should get them to mark the routes so that you can see what I had boots on, so I knew I was fine. And then we decided to do it like we'll tell them after this take, and then that take is when she broke her foot.
Yeah, I see those. Yeah, I did see those, and I ran right over them.
I mean, it was, obviously you feel terrible, and for anyone who's going through that, and Jules was sort of going through it every day on set. She had to come out there and often be carried to the location we were in, because you really couldn't even hike there in the condition she was in. Although I think for the rest of the crew, who might have been a little, from time to time, you get a little grumpy when you're getting rained on all day or sitting there cold in the night. But, anytime that the two stunt coordinators would be carrying Jules to this spot we're in, everyone had to kind of suck it up for that moment, realize, she was going through quite a lot. I think nothing like that's worth it, but it did inform everything that happened afterwards. And it did inform even the story and some things that happened that in the end, those things have to make the movie better somehow. It doesn't necessarily make it worth it, but you still have to do that. And we did, somehow it did. It is better as a result, just because of, I'm sure it fed Jules's performance. I'm sure it fed the energy there. And it also, story-wise, we came up with some things that I think made the movie better.
There was one thing that was cut from the film. I don't think they had enough money, but back to what John was talking about, like somebody covers a song differently every time. There was, I don't think we could afford the rights to Nessun Dorma, but there was a scene where the man sang Nessun Dorma and didn't make it in the movie. So you're missing part of it.
Blu-ray, right? Blu-ray release, it'll be on there, right?
Yeah.
All right, guys. So we want to be respectful of your time. So last question here, and primarily for John. Where can our listeners find more about the film? When are they going to be able to see it? Kind of give you a chance to promote it.
Well, September 18th, it will be released. It will be released in theaters, on demand. I think you'll be able to find it, iTunes, on demand, all those ways that we can find movies now. And I know it's, if anyone's able to go to a theater, amazing, but it is available to anyone to see it right now. And I think that is, it's kind of the perfect tonic to right now. I think it's on top of being a great suspenseful ride. I should mention our our DP Federico Verarde, who shot a beautiful film and some, quite majestic settings in this movie as a backdrop to this very kind of tense ride. So, and I also, would be remiss to not mention Nima Fakrara and Samuel Nakache, who did the music and sound respectively. I think the audio in this movie was really designed to be, I think the audio aspect of it is kind of a grand part of the design and is a big character in the film. The silences, the sounds that are happening. I think those guys did a beautiful job. So I think it's a very visceral experience for the viewer, and you get to experience what Jessica is experiencing. And I think it's an experience that is a tense ride, but really pays off by the end in terms of the catharsis you're looking for.
All right, guys. Well, I want to thank you again for coming on.
Yeah.
This is a real treat for us. Brian and I are big fans. Of course, we absolutely love the movie. I'm sure our listeners will as well.
Yeah,
Thanks so much. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, it was
Thanks,
great
gentlemen.
it was great to get to talk to you, especially when we love a film and then we get to talk to some of the main people behind it. So it was an extra thrill. So thank you guys again for taking the time and for everyone who helped set this up. And I guess we'll help. We'll keep talking about this film. Make sure everyone gets a chance to check it out.
Thanks, man.
All right, guys. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.